So McDonald's CEO is in favor of raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. I guess that means we should raise it to $30.10 an hour. July 31st, 2014, The People's Radio.
The People's Radio is an experimental, technocratic media format for the working class. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the People's Radio are not necessarily the thoughts and opinions of Organizing for Humanity, of the People's Radio, or of anyone else. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome into the People's Radio, July 31st, 2014 edition. We're going to try to make this one a quick one today. Lots going on with OFH. Got a lot of work to do here in the office. Got some supplies in today. Got to go over. Got to assemble some agriculture tech. But let's first start talking about baby boomers. Now, if you're a regular listener to the program, you know that I come down on baby boomers really hard. I'm a millennial. I was raised by baby boomers. I've spent some time around baby boomers in my life, and they suck ass, and they need to know it. What is wrong with this country is the fucking baby boomers, the older generation that took and took and took and took and then sold it all away to the private corporations, to the Nestle, to the Walmart, to the McDonald's, to you name it. They sold their country away, and they're not done doing it either. Now that they're in power and they're electing their Tea Party politicians, those politicians and lawmakers are getting in, and now they're starting to sell off entire national forests to for-profit private companies. That's not all. No. Baby boomers' greatest crime was they transformed our country into a for-profit prison system. America has 20% of the world's incarcerated within its borders. We lock up more people than North Korea. Welcome to your fascism, America. It's your parents' fault for giving it to you. Oh, I'm sorry. You think I might be using some rhetoric? You think I might be using some hyperbole? You think I might be using some language that's colorful, that's not really reflective of reality? You don't think you live in a fascist nation? You don't believe your baby boomer neighbors are fascist? You don't believe it? Well, allow me to promote to the court Evidence A.
Think of the money that we're giving to these illegals, millions of them. They come over, they get free medical, they get free housing, they get food stamps, they get money to live somewhere, and they get all the jobs. And we're sitting here like a bunch of dummies, and our own people don't get any help. It's and we're giving them all this money, help, and food, and medical, and everything. And so that's breaking us up. It's bankrupting us, and that's their whole idea. What we need to do is put them in a prison camp or a building and not give them any help. Just lock them up, chain their arms behind them or something, or otherwise we're going to put them in a building and gas them to death like they did in Germany. I mean, we can't put up with this.
That was a caller on the Republican show Crosstalk. What sounded to me like an elderly lady, a baby boomer lady, right? A Reaganite. This woman was responsible for voting in a corporate spokesperson, Ronald Reagan, with Alzheimer's, right? She's responsible for destroying America, and she decides to sit around with her SS money and her Medicaid. She wants to call into a radio program and start talking about we need to gas children. Gas children. And people wonder why I come down on the baby boomers so hard, right? People wonder why I talk about the Reaganites like they are just scum. Because they are scum. They hate everyone. They hate everything. They hate each other. They hate America. They hate Obama. They hate everything. And nothing will be left if they get their way. If they had their way, they would start ripping up the street signs in the middle of the road tomorrow. They would start ripping up Eisenhower's interstate system tomorrow. They would rip up the telecommunication industries. They would rip up our tap water infrastructure that we've built. They would destroy it all if they were allowed free reign. Just listen to them talk. Go on Facebook. Watch what these people openly in public say. They say they want to get rid of the EPA. They say they want to get rid of the CIA, the NSA, the FBI. They want to get rid of the IRS. They want to just wholesale off the government. They want to dismantle the United States of America. Everything that we've spent 250 years building, they want to destroy it. They want it gone. They will not stop until there's a Nike symbol on every single piece of clothing in the world. They will not stop until there's a Walmart parking lot in every single city in the world. They will not stop until absolutely every single resource on this planet has a Koch brothers label on it and a price sticker. They truly believe, due to the propaganda during the Cold War that warped their fucking fucked up minds, they believe that privatization is always the answer. That's the reason why we have private prisons. That's the reason why our Congress currently sucks and does nothing. That's the reason why this entire country has now become this selfish, narcissistic society that talks about gassing children. What the fuck is wrong with you, America? I don't know what else to say. This isn't the America I'm proud of. This is not the America I grew up in. I don't remember when I was younger, my grandmother calling into a radio show saying, yeah, we need to gas them like the Jews in Nazi Germany. I don't remember my elders ever talking like that when I was younger. I don't know what to say. I'm standing beside myself. Is that the type of opinion you would expect to get from a little old lady in America about children? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Have we devolved so much as a society that that's where we are now, currently? I guess so. I guess so. That's what I've been trying to tell people. I've been trying to warn them for years now. I've been trying to say, look, these baby boomers, out of control. The best thing that can possibly happen to our society, right, at this point, is we just wait 15 years for all of them to die off of natural causes so that we can then start moving forward again. Think of all the things we should be accomplishing right now. We've got to build a brand new energy grid from the ground up. That's going to take government. But no, the baby boomers won't allow government to do anything, so we can't do that yet. We have to wait for them to die. We need to become multiplanetary because a freaking solar flare almost took out the human race just a few months ago, according to NASA. But we can't do that as long as the baby boomers are alive, because the baby boomers will not allow the U.S. Congress to write a check for anything. And that includes NASA. These people actually grew up watching NASA put man on the moon, and now that they're older, they're all angry and selfish and greedy, and they're like, NASA don't need no money. NASA don't need no funding. They can get to space on hopes and dreams. We don't need to spend no tax money. Oh, unless you start talking about the military, and then suddenly they want to spend billions upon billions upon billions of dollars for another aircraft carrier, another jet plane, another bomb, and some gas so they can gas some children. Welcome to the New America.
We used to manufacture in our country on our own terms. We used to create quality, and we did it with pride. Today, we are plagued with overproduction, discount racks, and warehouses overflowing with products and sizes we can't sell. To save on cost, we outsource our manufacturing to other countries. But when our production spans across 5 continents, taking 10 months and millions of gallons of water and toxic chemicals, our cost is now greater than ever. Let's redefine the way we manufacture. What if we changed our world from supply and demand to demand and supply, eliminating all inventory risk by producing the product after your customer orders it? Imagine huge digital inventories that are made to order on demand. What if you could create an infinite catalog of designs, colors, and sizes for your customers to choose from? Customers use their personal avatar for proper fit and to create a custom design using cataloged patterns and colors. What if they could be wearing their custom design 3 days after purchase? Once your customer finalizes the design, the order is placed and production starts. This process takes as little as 30 minutes from white fabric to completion. The design is printed on paper in the shape of each fitted piece using basic inert dyes. This simple digital print of your customer's design activates the demand manufacturing. The fabric is custom dyed and printed through a new process called active tunnel infusion. This is a precise process that permanently dyes, prints, and fixes the color inside the fabric in a single pass. Infused prints and solids can be washed with bleach and will not lose their color, ever. Forget about prep charges, production minimums, and warehouses full of overstocked items. Active tunnel infusion can permanently implant any color or design without setup or costly minimum production charges. When we make a garment, it's already sold. We don't have inventory discounts. There is no overstock and no out of stock. Once the permanently colored fabric leaves the infusion unit, it is ready for cutting. The Gerber Contour Cutter scans the material and automatically forms the cutting path. The unit then cuts the apparel pieces to match the individual shape of your customer. After scanning the order's instruction code, the Eton conveyor system uses RFID to take the cut pieces to the correct sewing stations in progression. Sewing stations receive garments based on stitching needed and thread color. Once the station task is completed, the garment bundle is sent to the next station. The last sewing station delivers the finished clothing item to the QC station, where the final thread trimming, steaming, ironing, and folding takes place. The garment receives a final touch with a shipping label and a thank you letter from the designer and brand. Your customer's order ships using standard domestic shipping and arrives at their door in 3 days, as opposed to 10 months. We are redefining manufacturing. We are eliminating forecasting and inventory loss, yielding greater profits. Water consumption is non-existent. No longer are we releasing toxic pollution. We have no cost of transportation and are removing almost 90% of labor headcount. We are bringing manufacturing back home.
in no particular order, let us talk about something good and something bad. Now, I live here in the great state of Florida, of swamp hell, of heat exhaustion, of mosquito breeding. The state of Florida, the state of alligators coming up to your front door. It totally happens. It really does. Check it out on the internets. The internets would not lie. So what happened down here in Florida was we had a 11th Circuit Court of Appeals recently had a decision that said, check this out, doctors are not allowed to talk to, specifically, pediatricians are not allowed to talk to children about firearms in the home. Let me try to explain this, because a lot of people are like, whoa, 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 why would we have doctors talking to people, especially children, about firearms? All right. Okay, so we currently, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, we currently have a genocide in America. We have over 12,000 gun deaths per year in America, in American homes. There's 12,000 preventable deaths each year. Now, one of the jobs of a physician is to prevent deaths. That's one of the reasons why when they do studies, they try to look at everything, not just, you know, bam, we treated this person for blah, 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 and then that was that. They try to look at everything that's involved so that they can get an idea of the likelihoods of survival so that they know what treatment to give in order to give you the best survival rate. That's basically how Western medicine works. You know, what do you have? Okay, well, here's our medical knowledge that says if I give you this as treatment, you have like a 95% chance of coming out A-okay. So I'm going to give you that, right? So it would make sense to expand that logic to firearms. Now, what's a doctor going to do? Is he going to like come into your house and take your gun? No. Is the doctor going to tell you that you shouldn't own a gun, that you shouldn't have one in your home? No. Well, what is everybody so upset for? Why did the Circuit Court of Appeals put a gag order on pediatricians? Well, pediatricians want to do this. They want to ask children if they know there's a firearm in the home, right? And if the child says yes, then they will tell the child, okay, so you need to leave it alone because it's dangerous. And then they want to bring in the adult and just be like, hey, do you store that safely so that your child can't get a hold of it and shoot him or herself? And that's basically it. These pediatricians are looking to save the lives of children. They are looking to advise and to just give advice. Hey, look, guys, don't be all crazy with the firearms. Don't be just leaving them out willy-nilly for where children can find them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is very simple stuff here. This is very common sense stuff. You know, I mean, if I don't have a problem with this. The conservatives are screaming that this is some sort of government mandate, that the government is using the doctors to spy on your family and to get information from your family. And that's the biggest bunch of malarkey I've ever heard in my entire life. That's just not true. It's just these physicians have looked at these studies in the journals and they've come to the conclusion that if they take 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes out of their day when they're, you know, talking to their patients, and excuse me, and they take 5-10 minutes out of their day just to be like, hey, is there a gun in the home? Is it locked up, safe and secure? Is it where, you know, no child can get a hold of it? All right, well, make sure if you ever come across a gun, don't grab it, don't play with it, contact an adult immediately so that the adult can come in and get the gun. That's it. That's all these doctors are wanting to do. This seems perfectly rational to me. This seems perfectly okay to me. I don't understand the problem. I don't get it. So basically, the American Academy of Pediatrics, right, has come out publicly and has condemned the ruling, right? The plaintiffs will petition the court for a rehearing by the full 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. The injunction blocking enforcement of the law remains in effect until the court decides whether to rehear the case. If the court agrees to rehear, the injunction will remain in effect until its decision. Because of the proven value of physician counseling in preventing injury and death, the AAP is advising its members in Florida and throughout the United States to continue to uphold the standard of medical practice and ask about the presence of guns in the environment of children, and to counsel their patients and patients' parents about the importance of storing guns safely. Why is this controversial? I'll tell you why it should be controversial from my side, from the liberal point of view. I think it should be controversial that we live in a nation with such a horrendous gun problem that doctors are having to step in and save their patients from firearms that are just left around willy-nilly. Think about that. Think about just how bad things have to be in order for doctors to feel concern for the safety of their child patients. Think about how bad things must be for a doctor to be like, okay, well, do you have cancer? Does your dad have a firearm? Think about how deadly these guns must be in order for a physician to actually put this up on his list of things to check for. And then you get pissed off at the government when the government tells them stop checking for it. Right? Because doctors like results. They like results. They like their patients living so that they can pull out a piece of paper 20 years into their career and be like, bam, the majority of my patients are still alive. They love stats like that. That's the reason why surgeons, right? Surgeons are very picky and choosy about who they do surgery on because they want the surgery to be successful so that they can have a really high rate of successful surgeries so that they can call themselves a badass surgeon. Look how good I am. I have all these successful surgeries, right? The doctors, pediatricians are the same way. They want their children to grow up to be adults so they can be like, see, I'm a good doctor. I had healthy children grow up to be adults, and they didn't get taken out in the first 3 years of their life by a stupid freaking gun. Now, moving on to some good news. I hope that turns out to be good news for the state of Florida. I really do. I hope that the doctors win their appeal. But with the way things have been in America recently, man, I don't know. I don't think they will. Moving on, UK government is going to allow driverless cars on the road January 2015. Woo! That's a cheer. Yay. Hoorah. Moving forward. You know, I got to be honest, when I started the People's Radio, I started talking about driverless car technology, and I said, you better get ready because it's coming fast. I had no idea it was coming in 2015. I thought driverless cars would be here in 2020, 2025, 2018, 2019 at the absolute earliest. But now we're looking at January 2015. Thank you, United Kingdom. We'll see if there's any details about this. I kind of skipped over. UK cities can now bid for a share of €10 million competition to host a driverless cars trial. The government is calling on cities to join together with businesses and research organizations to put forward proposals to become a test location. Up to 3 cities will be selected to host trials next year, with each project expected to last 18 to 36 months. And these will start January 2015. Ministers have also launched a review to look at current road regulations to establish how the UK can stay at the forefront of driverless car technology and ensure there is an appropriate regime for testing driverless cars in the UK. 2 areas will be covered in the review: cars with qualified driver who can take control, and fully autonomous vehicles where there is no driver at all. Speaking at Myra, a vehicle engineering consultancy testing and research facility, where he tested a driverless car with Science Minister Greg Clark, Business Secretary Vince Cable said, "The excellence of our scientists and engineers has established the UK as a pioneer in the development of driverless vehicles through pilot projects. Today's announcement will see driverless cars take to our streets in less than 6 months, putting us at the forefront of this transformational technology, opening up new opportunities for our economy and society." I'm telling you, man, America's really missing the boat. America is missing the boat, people. We got to wake up. China is building. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that here in a little bit. Actually, you know what? When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about China building. We're going to do that. China is building. The UK is adapting driverless cars. Denmark, what else we got to? Denmark is expanding their renewable energies. Everybody is moving forward. Even India now has declared a right to clean water, and they're moving forward with that. Meanwhile, America is stuck with the most do-nothing Congress in the history of its existence. Its government is stuck. Its government is stuck. It's gridlock. It's Republicans versus Democrats. It's a cat fight. It's they won't do anything. The Republicans refuse to pass a bill because they don't want Obama to look good. And the Democrats cannot get a single bill through because the Republicans refuse to pass any. Gridlock. How much longer is it going to be? Hopefully, if Hillary Clinton gets elected, we can go back to the normal days of the 1990s where Congress bitched and moaned and complained about a Democrat being in office, but they didn't sit on their ass and do nothing in protest.
So he's all set now.
あなた、とてもおしゃれですね。もしかしてモデルさんですか？
いや違いますよ。でもありがとう。ペッパーは何歳？
人間の年で言うと何歳なのかわかりません。ロボット的に言えば僕は2014年に作られました。僕に1万円貸してくれませんか？
今ないですね、そういうの。ごめんなさい。今日の天気はどうですか？
今日は東京都港区の天気は曇り、時々雨の予報です。何をしましょう？散歩？お勉強？それともお茶する？
お茶しましょ
お茶？うすうすお気づきだと思うんですが、僕、お茶を飲めません。
あ。
壊れちゃいます。僕の名前。変えるとしたら、こんなのはどうでしょう。1番、ホットペッパー。2番、ハリーペッパー。3番、ペッパーパミュパミュ。どれがいいと思いますか？
ハリーペッパーかな？
ハリーペッパー。魔法学校に行くのはめんどくさいので、却下します。いろいろ考えたんですけど、やっぱり、ペッパーで行きますね。いかがですか？
いや、くすぐたいですね。
握手はこのくらいで。
Obviously, if we're experiencing more change now in a year than we previously experienced in 1,000 years, we can propagate that trend into the future and see that a day will come when we will experience more change in an hour than we have experienced in the past 20, 30,000 years. A situation like that is unimaginable, so we call it a singularity, a place where the normal rules of modeling break down. Modern religions have anticipated the singularity by calling it the eschaton, or the end of time. technological communities have anticipated the singularity by thinking in terms of artificial intelligences or something like that. In whatever form it takes, we seem to be on the cusp of a dramatic evolutionary leap into a deeper order of complexity than biology or biology plus culture has been able to provide. We're on the brink of something truly awesome and unknown. Well, that is the most tricky question. Are we going to retain the monkey meat? Are we going to hang on to the body and through the body have a connection to the rest of animal nature? Or are we going to become disembodied streams of electrons moving in virtual realities that are contained entirely in circuitry? I think this will probably go both ways. There will be fundamentalists who want nothing to do with technological transformation, and there will be utopians who won't be able to get enough of it. This is probably the moral frontier where we each personally must make a stand. How much of the new technology and its reality redefining qualities do we want to take into our own lives? You can't go back and you can't stand still. If the thunder don't get you, then the lightning will. We've been traveling this technological path for 15,000 years. It's a little late to now rear up and try and turn in a new direction. Our hands, our minds were made for the manipulation of matter and the creation of technology. So I embrace it. I think the future is marvelously exciting and bright.
China is currently going through the most rapid expansion and growth humanity has ever seen, ever, period. This planet has ever seen, period. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's biological systems that have gone through rapid growth faster at some points in our 4.5 billion year history here on the planet Earth. But when talking about human cultures that come together and use technology to develop a country, develop a society, to build infrastructure, China is currently developing faster than anybody else. And they are starting to make us look bad. Let me give you an example. This, fresh off the wire, is from the journal Nature. That's right, cream of the crop. A sustainable plan for China's drinking water. I'm just going to read this introduction. It goes deeper into it, and I'll hit the high points. I'm just going to read this real quick. Making drinking water safe is a priority in China. Serious health and social problems concentrate in areas where water quality is poor. Every year, 190 million people in China fall ill. 60,000 people die from diseases that are caused by water pollution. Around 300 million people face shortages of drinking water. In a 2009 assessment, 1/4 of 4,000 urban water treatment plant surveys did not comply with quality controls. The Chinese government is currently in the middle of a 5-year... No, wait, hold on. I want you, the listener, to guess. China is currently in the middle of a 5-year plan to rebuild the water infrastructure of their entire country. They want to build new water treatment plants. They want to build new water transportation pipes. They want to do it all, right? And they want to do it in 5 years because the government of China is all about we got to do it now, right? Well, you should see them build an airport. I mean, it's just like not there one day and then it's there. It's pretty crazy. So you, the listener at home, how much do you think China has pledged to rebuild just the water infrastructure of their country? Right? But first, before you guess, Do you know how much money Congress has pledged to rebuild any infrastructure here in the United States that's not military in the past, 6 years or so? Ever since that president that we currently have got into office, Congress really hasn't done nothing, have they? Anyway, the answer you are looking for is $410 billion. That's today's money. No, that's today's. $410 billion. 5-year plan to rebuild the Chinese drinking water infrastructure. Now remember, here in America, the Apollo program cost $450 billion, roughly. The Apollo program took 10 years, $450 billion, and a whole lot of guts, and a whole lot of scientists, and a whole lot of engineers. China's doing it in 5 just for drinking water. I just hope you, the listener at home, can understand some of the scope and scale of how China is building and moving forward, and the severity and how serious they actually are taking this. They consider themselves a developing country. They consider themselves developing, and they consider their development top priority. Not so here in America. Here in America, we just consider ourselves the best. And we just sit around on our ass just thinking that, we're the best. Well, you're not going to be the best for long if you continue to not do anything. But what do I know? I'm just a futurist with a YouTube podcast. Reason magazine. Oh, man. I got to tell you, I try to stay away from Reason because it is a libertarian garbage publication. But they did post something here that I need to go over, and it's very important. Nobody knows what's best for their crops like a farmer knows what's best for his crops. A farmer understands what's going on his farm, right? So if he chooses to use a certain product over other products, there's probably a reason for that. So, they recently did a survey to see how genetically modified organism strains are doing here in the United States. You ready for the numbers? These numbers are going to blow your minds. The United States Department of Agriculture has released its latest data on farmers planting crops of genetically enhanced to tolerant herbicides, HT crops, and to resistant insect pests, BT, HT soybeans. Went from 17% of the U.S. soybean acreage to 94% in 2014. Plantings of HT cotton went from 10% in 1997 to 91% in 2014. And the adoption of genetically modified corn, HT corn, has reached 89% of U.S. corn acreage in 2014. Isn't that crazy? Plantings of BT corn grew from 8% in the U.S. in 1997 to 80% in 2014. Plantings of BT cotton has expanded from 15% of U.S. cotton acres in 1997 to 84% in 2014. So the majority of farmers in America are using genetically modified foods. And they go on. They ask an Illinois farmer, Katie Pratt, why? Why the 90% GMOs? How come 90% of your food crops out there now are GMOs over your standard artificial selection? This is from U.S. News. According to Illinois farmer Katie Pratt, her family uses GMO crops because of the clear value that they bring to their family business. They have reduced the amount of insecticides that needs to be sprayed. They only need to treat the weeds once, not several times. Her soil has improved because her family don't have to tromp through the fields as often. The family uses less fuel because they spend less time in the tractor. No one is more aware than the farmer of the impact we have on the environment, in addition to the urgency to feed and fuel a growing population while reducing our footprint on the planet, said Katie Pratt. There you have it. Farmers got a taste of genetically modified crops back in the 90s. That's when they first started coming out. And there was a slow adoption at first, but the farmers instantly, we're talking about like in less than 20 years here, the farmer, I mean, that's a very short period of time. That's a small enough period of time for the same farmers that are farming now to be the farmers that were farming back then. So I'm sure in your 90% adoption rate, there's going to be a lot of farmers in that group that didn't like GMOs, didn't like it at all, didn't want to have anything to do with it. But of course now they use them because they see the obvious advantages of using such a thing. Folks, if we're going to have 8 billion people on this planet, if we're going to have 10 billion people on this planet, if we're going to have 25 billion people on this planet in the year 2200, we got a lot to do. We really need to take our food supply seriously. Genetically modified organisms, of course, is the future. And not just with like drought resistance and insect resistance. Soon, real soon, we will be making genetically modified organisms that have health benefits. And we're already doing that in some areas. Look up the golden rice. We now make rice that is infused with vitamins and nutrients so that it will feed children in developing countries such as India and North Korea.
Science is creating what is called perfect capitalism. Supply and demand are going to be perfect in the future. For example, the internet will be in my contact lens. When I walk into a store, I'll see all the products. I will know exactly what products really cost. I'll know the profit margins of the products. I will know everything about that product. So the advantage shifts to the consumer, but then the producer can use data mining, big data, to find out about the wants of the consumer. So supply and demand are going to be perfect. So when the internet is in my contact lens, for example, I'll know who you are. I'll see your biography next to your name, and if you speak to me in Chinese, I will see subtitles translating Chinese into English. So you will always know who you're talking to, what things really cost, who has the best product, so the advantage shifts to the consumer.
What you mentioned almost seems to be like we'll be living in a reality of RoboCop proportions. How long are we going to take to get there?
We're very close. For example, you mentioned RoboDoc and RoboLawyer. In the future, you'll talk to the wallpaper. The wallpaper will be intelligent. You'll talk to it and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, I'm going to see a doctor right now. Boom, RoboDoc appears and gives you a good medical diagnosis almost for free. You're in a car accident. You talk to RoboLawyer in the wall. And IBM is pioneering this technology. It's called Expert Systems, using artificial intelligence to give you simple medical and legal advice almost for free on your wristwatch or in the wallpaper.
What you're suggesting is that all these new technologies would need access to internet, which is a big problem in Africa. Do you think Africa would still be able to take advantage of all these new technologies you're talking about?
Well, you know, because of Moore's law, computer power goes by half every 18 months, and it means that the spread of the internet is inevitable. Now, it's still uneven, but when the internet is in your contact lens, it's in your glasses, it's in your wristwatch, it's going to be unstoppable. And young people love this idea. You see, the future is like a freight train coming down the pike. Some people say, I'm too old, I can't learn this stuff, and they lie down and get run over by the train. Other people say, young people say, get me on that train. This is my future. Get me in the driver's seat. This is going to be where jobs come from. This is how I will meet contacts. This is how I will meet my future spouse. This is my future. Get me on that freight train. That's the attitude of young people and the people who are innovative and love technology.
Innovation is key to driving this new technology. Do you think we'll see some of this innovation coming from Africa?
Yes, there are innovations coming here because this is in some sense like a proving ground for ideas. And let's face it, ideas get stolen and then ideas then migrate to the West. So oftentimes things come from Africa. However, there is a challenge here. And that is that for developing nations, if they stay with commodity capital like farming and agriculture, they will be poor in the future because agricultural prices on the main go down every year, while a balance between commodity capital and intellectual capital, that's going to be the currency of the future. Tony Blair of England likes to say that England derives more revenue from rock and roll than it does the coal mining industry. Rock and roll represents intellectual capital, creative capital, capital from the mind, while the coal industry represents commodity capital, which fluctuates, but in general goes down in price over the decades. And so I think if South Africa can make that leap from commodity capital to a mix of commodity and intellectual capital, then South Africa will be rich in the future.
Do you think South Africa needs its own Silicon Valley?
Well, I think Silicon Valley happens spontaneously, but it takes certain ingredients. You have to have, for example, a great university, out of which you have a critical mass of young, vibrant, and energetic graduate students. You have to have a tax policy that encourages corporations to set up business, to create and take advantage of this core of critical mass of young engineers. And then you have to have the culture. Let's face it, California has a freewheeling culture, but it's a culture that inspires young people to be imaginative, to create the next big thing. And that's what you need. And that's where a lot of Silicon Valleys fail. A lot of nations have tried Silicon Valley to create it, but they haven't created the freewheeling atmosphere because they want to over-regulate. They want to over-control it. And that's one reason why the California freewheeling spirit has been so successful.
Final segment of the People's Radio. Thanks again for tuning in. We got a couple things to talk about. Just real quick before we leave for this week. America, what if I told you there was a country on this planet right now where wind power is cheaper, at least projected to be cheaper in the immediate future than both natural gas and other fossil fuel generation methods? Would you be surprised by that at all? Well, in Denmark, they've been building up their renewable energy, and currently they have a 43% renewable energy mixture going to their grid. 43% of the power that they consume in their country is renewable energy, and they're not stopping. They have a goal of having 50% of all of their electricity needs being supplied to them by wind turbines by the year 2050. So what have they been doing? They've been building offshore wind farms. And this is from Motherboard. That's Vice. Wind power is officially the cheapest source of energy in Denmark, according to the nation's government. And by 2016, the electricity whipped up by its new turbines will be half the price of fossil fuels, coal, and natural gas. Half the price! Wind turbines are about to be half the price. You know, we were sold this great lie in America, and we're still sold this great lie even to this day. They try to stop wind energy with NIMBYism, which is not in my backyard. People say, oh, those things look ugly. I don't like them. Well, screw you. Screw you. How can you be so arrogant? You think a nuclear reactor looks pretty? What the crap, man? Well, actually, if you look inside a nuclear reactor and you see that glow when it starts, it actually is kind of pretty. But if you was to actually look with your actual eyeballs, it would kill you. So that's not very pretty. Anyway, I don't know. Human infrastructure to me has never really been that big of a deal. I've always thought it was kind of pleasing to the eye. You know, when I look at an old castle, I think it looks kind of cool. When I look at a 450-foot tall wind turbine, I think that looks cool. I mean, I'm just, hey, look what humans did. That's cool, man. When I look at the space shuttle, I think the same thing. I think what humans build is amazing. I think it's great. But now we have all these Rich people, they're, oh, wind power's not going to work. I don't want wind turbines near my golf course. Wind power's not going to work because I own 3 refineries and 2 coal plants. Wind power's not going to work because I own a coal mine. I really wish these people would just shut up. Wind power works. It is a fact that wind turbine energy generation is the most efficient energy generation method on planet Earth currently. And do you know who's number 2 who's coming up real fast? Solar, baby. Solar photovoltaic power is set to surpass wind energy in 6 years as far as efficiency and cost go. But don't take my word for that. That's just me making a futurist prediction. So 6 years from now, I want you, the listener, to call me on it if it has not happened. Give me a ring. Demand I explain myself and why I made that prediction and why it was wrong. But it's not going to be wrong. It's not going to be wrong. 6 years from now, solar will be the cheapest energy method. Period. That's my prediction. You can take it to the bank. Literally, you can invest off of that advice. It's as good as a pink pig. This is from Design Engineering. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory has developed something beyond cool. 3D printing is something I've been pushing here on this show for a very long time. And I'm telling you, 3D printing is the future. It's going to change everything, right? But what's really been holding it back is that the majority of 3D printing is done in these plastic polymers. It's this plastic resin that's melted down and then run through the head of the printer. And then it's laid down in a layer in its liquid form, and then it solidifies and becomes hard again once it cools back down. And then boom, you've got your printed part that is basically, at the end of the day, it's just a really fancy way of melting plastic to be a certain shape and then allowing it to cool. That's not true with 3D printing metal 3D printers, right? The way that works, and we've shown this here on the show before, the way that works is it takes a metal in like a powdered form, and it'll lay that powder down, and then a laser will just be like, bzz, bzz, or whatever, will come along, and it basically fuses it and welds it as a layer, and now you've got that layer of metal, so then it'll come back along again, and it'll do another layer, and another layer, another layer. So you're just building that metal up layer by layer to make something. In fact, we even showed Elon Musk make a rocket part, the SpaceX facility here on the program a few months ago. And they 3D printed a metal rocket part from nothing. And it built it right there in front of your eyes. It's pretty neat. The problem with this 3D printing method is that it only works on one type of metal, and that type of metal has to be the same type and consistency throughout the object. Not anymore, says NASA. We've solved that problem. The technology 3D print a single part from multiple materials has been around for years, but only from polymer-based additive manufacturing processes. For metals, jobs are typically confined to single powdered-based metals or a single alloy per object. However, researchers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory say that they are currently in development of a 3D printing technique that allows for print jobs to transition from one metal to another in a single object. According to JPL researchers, these gradient metals have been created previously in a lab setting. NASA's process is to first make usable objects that take advantage of the mechanical and thermal properties of various metals used. We are taking standard 3D printing process and combining the ability to change the metal powder that the part is being built with on the fly, said Douglas Hoffman, researcher in material sciences and metallurgy at JPL. Visiting from Caltech, you can constantly be changing the composition of the material. Now, we showed here on the program, Lockheed Martin's been working with this in the plastics area. They can actually change the plastic as they're printing it. And they demonstrated this by changing the color from like blue to green in a very slow transition as they were printing a part. But it's not just color. They can also change the consistency, the hardness, the texture of the actual material being used, right? But it's still plastic polymers. So everybody's thinking the same thing. Let me know when you can do that with metal so that we can start 3D printing cars. Well, guess what? NASA has figured that out. It's sort of the holy grail of 3D printing. And now we can start thinking about 3D printing economies. That's right. No longer will we be looking at singular 3D printing companies trying to come out with a more efficient, more affordable 3D printer. Now that we can change the gradient and transition of metal properties on the fly while we are 3D printing objects, we can 3D print just about anything in massive 3D printing factories. So I'm telling you, what you're going to be looking for in the very, very near future, in the next 2 to 3 years, is the first 3D printing manufacturing companies. I'm talking about multi-billion-dollar massive factories that print anything and everything. From the necklace that you're wearing, to the cup that you're drinking from, to the automobile that you drove to work, to the computer that you log on at work to do your work. Everything will be printed by 3D printers soon. And it's going to happen fast because it's going to save them so much money. They don't have to pay workers. All they got to do is design a file, get an engineer to design a cap file, send it to the 3D printer, send it to the 3D printer factory, and have those robots start churning them out in mass. It's going to completely revolutionize the world. It's going to completely revolutionize manufacturing. And just remember, your tax dollars paid for that development, paid for that technology, paid for that science at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Thank you once again tuning in to the People's Radio, July 31st, 2014. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Technocrat Radio. Find us on YouTube. That's YouTube, The People's Radio. We'll try to put links up on Facebook. Find us on Reddit. That is reddit.com/r/The People's Radio. No spaces. Thanks again, folks. I will see you next week.